Welcome to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we, a business owner and an artist, discuss the business of art and the art of business. Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder of Epic Made, and I'm the host of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business. Past guests include Derek Smith of Word Creative Consultants, Ben Levy of Sell It Great, and Liam Martin with Running Remote. I am forever grateful for the supporters of our podcast, and as always, we are looking for sponsors. That said, Pixel Retentive is always brought to you by the creative gurus at Epic Made. Epic Made is a team of strategists and artists who excel in visual storytelling. Our studio crafts unforgettable animations and illustrations that not only captivate your audience, but also drive tangible business results. We specialize in engaging imaginative, pop culture savvy audiences with beloved clients like Nickelodeon, WWE, and Sci-Fi. Visit getepicmade.com and let's collaborate on your next creative campaign. All right, so with us today, we have Jeremy Shuback. Welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Hello, hello.
Thanks for sitting through my little sponsor read there. I only messed it up one time, but hopefully we'll edit that out. But yeah, all right, cool. So Jeremy is awesome. Let me tell you a little bit about Jeremy. Jeremy works with some of the top journalists on YouTube as an editor, motion designer, and map animator and writer. He's been making YouTube videos professionally since 2012. After starting off as a visual effects artist, now as a freelancer, he's able to focus his time on making videos he finds fascinating, and often so do millions of others. Little flex on the millions of views there. I love that.
It's my one brag. I don't have an Oscar. I'm like, this, my top video has 6 million plus views. And I'm like, that's not a real number. That is a fake number. That makes no sense to me. And that's pretend, because I just work alone and then a few people give comments. And then there's numbers, and those are weird and random, and I don't know how to judge things other than that.
Dude, that's amazing. I love it. Dude, 6 million is pretty awesome. I think any of us in the industry of making videos would be proud of any video that gets 6 million views.
It's a stupid number. I don't understand these. None of it makes sense to me.
I totally get it. We made a little video for SpongeBob one time. And it was like we redid their intro animations, and made it like a flip book comic. And it got like 1.5 million views on TikTok. I was like, why? Like when it was Nickelodeon on Nickelodeon's channel, and it was SpongeBob, right? Like,
let's be clear. It's not 6 million on my own channel. It's 6 million on someone else's channel who he gets all the views. Like, that works. It counts. It's still amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All the same, still awesome. But anyway,
no, I love it.
Cool.
Anyways, yes.
Yeah. So look, I want to let the audience get a chance to get to know you a little bit better. So tell us how long you've been in the industry and what project you're most proud of so far.
I've been in the industry I've been doing full-time YouTube since 2012. I think I put that in my intro, and I've been doing video for, 3-4 years before that, even, where I was working in Hollywood, living in Los Angeles. And then I moved up to the Bay Area, to San Francisco area, because I got a job actually like directing animated shorts, which was like, oh, cool. That wasn't a turn for my career I was expecting. And that was I was like, all right, I can use this as a backdoor to get into Hollywood again. But then YouTube grew, and Hollywood's big too. So I've just kind of stayed in there since. I never thought I'd be there that long. Sorry, you had a second part to this question, something I'm proud of, or what was it? Yeah,
no, that's all. That works. That's if there was a thing that like you were most proud of within a project or something that you worked on.
Yeah, there was a project I did a couple of years back called The Origin of the World Map. And this was a personal project that I really loved. And basically, I asked the question, how in the year, 1400, did they have what looked like almost not a photo perfect, but like a very perfect outline of the shape of the world? Like, how is that a thing? And then
it's inconceivable, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, there's no satellites. This is crazy. And like, you compare it to satellites, and it lines up pretty well, like really well. And in 4 or 5 minutes, with a lot of visual graphics, with a lot of motion graphics, I just kind of like show, hey, here's what happened at every stage of history and how it evolved and how it was a whole thing. And I mean, that honestly, that video changed my career because I sent it out to a few places, and I got hired to then make videos like that. So it was worth the time kind of putting it in. So I'm very proud of that one. It's not the most views, but it's something that I'm like very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, and this comes up from time to time on the podcast, but like all of us creatives have passion project ideas in our head, and we're like, oh, we'd love to do this type of work, or even we just get pulled to this idea, right, for whatever reason, right? And then those things are inevitably what becomes the door openers for better opportunities in our life. So it's like, oh, we shouldn't be spending all this time on this passion project, and all of a sudden that passion project leads to a whole line of business that you wouldn't have got before. So like, I love that and highly encourage people to do that. So.
I mean, I'm always trying to figure out what's the passion project that I need to do to propel the next step of my career rather than the previous step of my career. Because like, I know what I wanted to do 2-3 years ago, and I just want to keep doing that. But if I'm going to do something above and beyond to actually get me better and better clients, it gets harder and harder. Like right now, I'm working on this series of videos. It'll be 4 or 5 videos. And I got an artist grant for it, which is incredible and a whole other thing. I've made the first one. I was supposed to finish all 4 of them by the end of last year, but I got a lot of freelance work and I've got to finish them. I'm deep into them. But it's kind of like whenever I have a spare moment, that's what I'm working on. And it's exciting because it's like, I don't know, making stuff from scratch. It's a whole other thing than working with a client and being like, all right, I want a 20th revision. And I want it this way. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Well, I know I said make it blue, and then we changed it to red, but I really think I like blue better, and maybe we'll try a version with pink, just for fun. Right? It's like, so can I strangle you now, or is that like,
Can I get it in these 17 dimension types? Like, technically.
I love that a lot of stuff's going to square, which is helpful for like all this, but not, but then you did, never mind.
Is a lot of stuff going to square? Everything I do is like 16 by 9 or 9 by 16.
Yeah, some stuff's going square now. There's a lot of, I don't know, man. It's, it'll change again in 3 months. So it's
when I think square, I think of Instagram circa 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But I am not on top of the trends. I'm like, I should be making TikToks full time. I'm still living in YouTube. I'm going to become a dinosaur.
Dude,
oh no.
YouTube has held its ground. I still remember when like people were talking about YouTube back in like 2007 and 8. I'm like, what? Well, I don't. I was still like freshly off of MySpace, Like,
I felt weird saying that what I do is make YouTube videos full time for a living until maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Like I've been doing it for 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
Keep track at this point. But like, what do you do for a living? I make YouTube videos. Yes. What do you do for your job? It's just like,
as an adult.
Like
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I remember there's a lot of 12-year-olds that are aspiring towards that. And I'm like, no. People pay me money. All right, sure. But like for money, yeah. I don't know.
But little did you know that it would continue to grow from there. And then like literally people have a whole lot, like people make millions of dollars on YouTube. Like,
oh yeah. I mean,
that's the only thing they do, which is sort of terrifying to have all of your eggs in somebody else's basket like that. But
I know people have bought houses based off of YouTube money, which is ridiculous to me.
It is.
Like that's crazy. I don't know. I still think of it as it was 5 years ago, but who knows what it will be in a year. They'll keep adding ads and everyone's like, hey, there's this platform that doesn't have ads. So I don't want it anymore. Ugh.
We shall see, said the blind man.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting where advertisers start putting their money more and more, because the amount of money that they put into television versus the amount of money that they put into YouTube advertising, it continues to switch. And, as YouTube gets more and more money, in theory, the production value will continue to increase. But it still feels like a game of catch up. And I don't claim to understand that side of things at all. I'm like, if I can stay out of the money raising and the marketing side of things and just stick to the creating, it makes me very happy. It's the dream.
I get that. I built my entire agency around that. Like we do creative for marketing and advertising and some entertainment. We don't sell ads. We don't place ads. We'll come up with great ideas and we execute them. Like that's what we do.
I mean, you're running a pretty big company, like relatively big in this scheme. I'm sure, the amount of time that you get to spend on creative versus the amount of time that you're like balancing all of your hats. Like it has to be a constant struggle. Like, what can I offload to business versus what can I offload to doing this myself? Like, what is your main job now? I'm sure.
Yeah, I got fired from my own creative team about 6 years ago. I haven't done a piece of creative for like an actual client and, the better part of half a decade. My creative director, who's been with me for 12 years, is like, look, man, he's a co-host on the podcast. Well, he was a bunch at the beginning, and now he sort of just shows up here and there. But Ross just told me one day, he's like, look, Carl, he said, he said, I love this company. I want to grow it and scale it with you. He's like, but if you want to make money, you got to get the fuck out of the art department. He's like, you're just like too all over the place and not, I'm too much of an artist and not a production artist, right? Like I want to be artsy fartsy and like I want to do all my great ideas and go way down the rabbit hole of a bad idea and then come back out and waste 3 hours on that. Like we just can't do that and make money. So
I rose the ranks kind of going through kind of working in visual effects to then getting more and more towards directing and then producing. And at a certain point, it was just kind of managing people. And like, it was good. It was like, all right, here's creative notes. Let me hire this team. I got my sound guy. I got my animator. I got my, I don't know, whatever the 24 other people are. And I was like, I'm not like, if I were to go in and do the edit myself, I was like, this is a bad use of my time.
Right.
And I know how much money, like this is a bad use of the money. And I left it. It was such a hard choice. I went from full-time producing essentially, where it'd be like 3 or 4 teams where there's like directors on each of the teams. And I was like, this isn't what I want to do. If I was doing this, I would get into, I don't know, a business the finance. I don't know. I just want to make stuff. And it was a really difficult process kind of making that leap and being like, okay, I need to make some stuff from scratch where everything is on my own. So people don't look at my portfolio and it's like, okay, you produced that. What does that mean? What did you actually do? And just showing something was like, no, here's something where I did everything. But that was a very tough shift a couple of years back.
It's a different mindset. Yeah, I had to transition. One of my mentors kind of said this early on, and it resonated with me because he started off as a part on the production side, and he helped do animation and web design and all that sort of stuff. And now he's got like a $30 million a year agency. And he's like, well, I had to fall in love with designing a business, right? So, and then also I started my own side studio where I do art every week of like on YouTube live. Like I had to scratch that itch. But I also realized I never liked production work. I hate the constraints of all. I like to free flow creativity, just make some shit like, wow, I drew that, right? Like, and I love to sell the design process and understand marketing and business very, very well after doing it for 2 decades. So I feel like all the things sort of fell into place how it works for me. But you're absolutely right. Like being introspective about the part of the work that you like is important because you don't want to promote yourself to misery, right? You don't want to be like, oh, look, I'm executive creative director of 5 teams and I fucking hate my life every day. Like nobody wants that.
It was a weird step, honestly, because I went from like, I'm the top guy or kind of the top guy navigating with 4 different departments to be like, you want this, you want this, you want this. But like, then all of the creative like stuff was filtering through me to being essentially low man on the totem and making that very conscious choice to be like, all right, I need to relearn a lot of these skills because I've been out of the art side for 4 or 5 years. Just going in to be like, okay, I can take a scalpel to this and this and this, but I'm not like this After Effects monster. And I just had to turn into, okay, no, I want to be an After Effects and Premiere or whatever monster to the point that I'm not even thinking about the tools anymore. And that took time. And it kind of took like, will this work or not? Is this something, because it was like, I was playing in a small pond where it was like, I was making a lot of videos within the Jewish world. So if you Google Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, or like, what is the Passover Seder? It's 4 times out of 10 or whatever, videos I made. And then they got great views, but I was like, I want to play with the big kids. I want to jump to like news and all of that. And that was like, I just had to completely throw out my portfolio and start again. And I was like, I don't know, it's worked out well, but yeah, there's no guarantee.
Hey, well, and I just realized we're deep into it now, talking about difficult professional transitions, right? Like, so, your experience here was like building yourself up this totem pole. having to take a hard ego check for the sake of your happiness of like, hey, this is the thing I want to do. I think that's what I just heard you say, right? Because your ego is like, oh, I'm top man on the totem pole, rah, 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 right? But like, are you having fun there? Like, does that, and why are we even set up that way in a creative environment? Like, I think everyone should just be like, these are the things I love the most, and everyone have equal respect across the board, which is how we run our shop. But like, I do things different on purpose. So
ultimately, for better or worse, I'm not run too much by ego. Like I know people who are, and I'm not like, I'm at the top, I'm at the bottom. Like these things fluctuate. Like
sure.
of course, yeah. What really matters to me is working with nice people, which is a weird thing to say. But we've all done like both sides of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, one thing that's nice when doing freelance is you work with a client, you're like, that was not a fun experience. You're busy from that point forward. And
always busy.
Yeah, I'm just like,
busy.
oh man, I wish I wasn't booked so much. I guess people love me. And then you work with clients that are just a pleasure and like, yes, I will figure out a way. Let's make this work. And I don't know, I constantly feel like that's the latter. How can I work with just nicer and cooler people that just are passionate and love what they're doing and aren't just going through the paces? Because that's tough. That feels like so obvious, but like, who does that? Like the last video I worked on that I spent a couple of months on, not the most recent one that isn't released yet. So I don't know, maybe I can't talk about it, but the one that most recently, before that, was just 2 months on the Legend of Atlantis. And
my God, that sounds awesome.
It was great. It was great. And how it like actually stemmed from all of these like super racist trends and dipped me into just like this whole world of spirituality of the late 1800s. And it's just like, I love stuff like that, getting to spend 2 months dipping into that world. And then 2 months later being like, all right, here's my next thing, something completely different.
So let me ask you, did you get into Edgar Casey inside of the Atlantis stuff?
I mean, absolutely.
I love that. I would not exist if it wasn't for Edgar Casey, just for the record.
It was Edgar Casey, sorry, I'm saying that, and Madame Blavatsky were the two right there doing, oh God, this is the sort of thing, like I get into it, I'm deep in it, and then the moment the video publishes, I just forget everything.
On to the next thing. Yep.
Wait, no, I'm trying, we'll be on this for a second. And they were getting into, oh God, there was this term that was combining science and like woo-woo madness. They had a name for it that I'm forgetting right now. And it was just like perfect. If I was Googling, I'd find it in a sec, but I'm not. I'm embarrassed that I don't have it. Anyway, it was all this way of saying, hey, clearly indigenous people can't have made massive monuments. There must have been some race from way before then. And that's like the Legend of Atlantis. And it's
so stupid, right?
It persists. Anyway, like I love like just digging into that and being like, let me watch the other documentaries. Let me read a book or two on it. Let me obsess over it. And then I get in these conversations and I'm like, all I want to do is talk about this thing that I've been interested in for the last month and a half. And people are like, all right, how did we get on talking about Atlantis again? I'm like, it's related to everything.
It's like the Roman Empire meme. Have you seen that going around?
Yeah, no, I had someone do that to me and they're like, oh, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And I assumed that they had seen this video of mine that was completely related to that. And they're like, just another dude. All right.
It's difficult when we start filing into these little stereotypes. Like, no, I tried so hard to be unique.
I am rounding out 40 right now, and I will be the first to admit, boy, am I getting interested in World War II. So just fitting into all the notches right there.
Same. I am going to be 40 on Monday. So I'm in the last week, the last 6 days.
Happy birthday, or if this publishes later, happy birth, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll publish probably in like 2-3 weeks. So
you doing anything special?
Yeah, I'm going camping for 4 days. It's gonna be fun. Just gonna leave the screens, turn my phone off. I'll probably sit it on the table somewhere so I can text people back when they get lost trying to come to my little excursion. But
car camping or backpacking?
We're gonna do car camping. Actually, it's canoe camping. So it's like a spot that you get to park and then canoe around and like set up your stuff and everything. So we do that a lot.
That's cool. Do you do the thing where you like lower the air pressure on your tires to get somewhere completely in the middle of nowhere with the canoe strapped to the top of the car?
So we do that in the Outer Banks. My brother's got, but it's glamping because my brother's got like a beach house, but you have to drive 30 minutes on the beach to get there. So like it's like a whole ass epic adventure. But there's no roads; it's all sand. Like you literally drive next to the ocean. It's amazing. So
I had this. I'm like debating if I tell this story. Yes, I do. I had this camping trip that I did. It was a friend of mine, his bachelor party, and I just been in Mexico City for a wedding, and I ate too much, and I had and I had the worst diarrhea of my life. This is why I was debating telling this story.
fair.
Right after that, I got back, and a day later, I was going on this camping trip. And we were going in a car all together. And I was like, all right, like, I'm not feeling good, but like, we're driving there. It's not backpacking. All good. We get in his brother's car. And at one point in the road, he lowers the air pressure and we start off-roading. And I'm like, oh no, we're going somewhere without a toilet. This is bad news because I've done zero research.
Oh no.
So we get there and, I don't know how many hours I spent off site having dug a hole for myself, but that was a rough camping trip. But a canoe was involved, and that part of it was a lot of fun. And boy, glad I shared that story because that's really what making art is all about. Going to the woods,
difficult professional transitions
forever. Yeah, difficult transitions. And what is a difficult transition?
You dug yourself a literal and metaphorical hole in this story. So I love it. Yeah, no. So that's definitely love camp and adventures and that sort of stuff. And stuff I keep thinking about too is like, how do I incorporate more of that into my life, right? Like, how do I travel more and be in the woods more while I do work? But it's also like, do I want to do that? Because if I make more avenues for me to work, I'm just going to work more. Shouldn't I just like take the time off and just not work? So that's the tango in my head there. So.
I've been thinking about this recently. I was telling you before this call that I just got back from India. My life sounds so much more interesting than it is. What I do is I sit at a computer and I move things around with my mouse for many, many, many hours a day in After Effects and Premiere. But I just got back from India, so I'm going to pretend like my life is exciting and I'm traveling to all of these places all the time. No, and I was thinking about like, what's my favorite version of travel? And the thought of researching a place like crazy and, doing a personal video when I go there, like it's so much easier to just shoot in a place rather than just making it all motion graphics. And then like I care and I'm like investigating. And I've thought about how can I shape travel around that? I haven't succeeded yet, but I know people who do that. I've worked for people who do that. And it's very attractive as a possibility. We'll see if I end up figuring that out. I mean, is that the sort of thing that you're talking about, working in travel?
Yeah, that would be cool. So like a lot of, for sure. And a lot of the stuff that like my personal art, like, and this is all on like colorfulcarl.com, but it's all about like spirituality, art, nature and creativity and all that, like kind of how it inspires me and fuses all together. And like a lot of yoga stuff in there and like weird, trippy psychedelic faces with stars and nebulas and stuff in them. So, but like all that stuff, like when I'm out seeing the world, I take lots of pictures of like cool textures and leaves and bark and branches and skies and sunsets. And then I'll bring them into Photoshop and make art. So like, I always do that sort of stuff when I'm traveling around. I just thinking like, is there a way for me to not be at this fucking desk for 40, 50 hours a week, right? Like,
I think about like, how much more do I want to get into the videography side of everything? Because the truth is like, I do writing, I do editing, I do motion graphics. Like I can kind of operate a camera. Like I know how to set up lights and sound and like get an interview going and such, but like real camera work, that's artistry. And it's a very deep hole of artistry, both time and expense wise. And I'm like, how deep do I want to go into that? And is that I don't know. There's something to be said about throwing myself in there. Is it worth it? I don't know. I don't know.
There's probably a cell phone version of that where you can like limit yourself to like everything I can shoot with my phone, right? And then you augment and supplement with your other skills, and you force yourself to stay at a level that isn't insane, right? Because you already have probably a decent cell phone, and every cell phone has a decent camera. So it's like that's where I take my photography, right? Like I'm not getting a fucking DSLR. I'm not getting crazy. I'm just going to do cool photography and use some wide angle shots and cool angles and then pull those into Photoshop and do digital painting and collaging on top and and that's what I've been doing. It's been working great. So I love it. And it let me not get obsessed about getting down the rabbit hole of being all the professional photography stuff. So.
Well, what's your dream project when you're thinking about these sorts of things? Because I'm constantly going back and forth between here's the project that I'd love to do next, or here's the project that I'm aspiring towards. Like, do you think in those terms, or?
Yeah. So an Epic Made, I'd love to do a really amazing animated music video. For someone like the Gorillas or the Flowbots or like Rage Against the Machine, that like real like high level, heady, like great beats, like music you just love to listen to, but also like has deep, meaningful, rebellious tones to it. Like I'm feeling that in my bones right now. So that would be cool on Epic Made side. Also, like, you know, I'd love to do like a 5 to 10 episodes season of a cool show. You know, something fantasy themed would be ideal. A little sci-fi, something like that might be cool.
I was seeing your thing about D&D, and yeah, no, I like it's crazy how prevalent that is everywhere. I do improv regularly, and the show I'm in right now, it's D&D themed, so we do costumes and stuff like that. Just done like normal level improv in the past. It's just like that's not even my thing. But other people in my group, like I don't know, they're obsessed with it, and yeah, I love the whole fantasy world.
It's cool, and the basis of it is kind of weaved into so much of our pop culture. And all like most of the video games, like half the video game genres have D&D mechanics and ideas weaved into them. You know, then you get into like Tolkien and all of his stories, and then Game of Thrones, and all sort of just kinds of, you know, like everything blends into each other in different spaces. So it's pretty cool. I loved it. I've always loved this stuff.
I love that. I did this video once about bestiaries, which were just like Book of Beasts of Old, and it was just kind of talking about some of like, what was it? 7 mostly forgotten beasts of old. And it was just like ones that people haven't heard of, like the Bonnekin, who was this beast that kept showing up that could kill an enemy from a mile away with his farts. And, you know, it was just like in 6 others, and I got different animators to work on it. But then I got all these comments from people who play D&D and games. It was like, what do you mean mostly forgotten? Of course I've heard of these. And I'm like, all right, well, you know, whatever.
I guess they're fringe super nerds, and we love that. That's a great fringe super nerd is a special, awesome class of human. Mean no disrespect by that. Those are the only people that have heard of a Bonnekin, and that's okay. Like,
no, I love it. I did an animated series once. It was this preschool show, and it was, I think we did 14 episodes. They were like 7-minute episodes, and that was a fun process. It was working with a whole animation team and voice actors, and just like very different than what I do now. And I was like, maybe this is my future, doing animated shows. And I was like, nope, I'm so much better at nonfiction. I obsess over nonfiction. Just, yeah, it's weird.
All right, dude, nonfiction probably, so there's a thing there there's something going on there, right? Like you love nonfiction, you love history, you're inspired by it. And so many people in our field get pulled to fantasy, right? Like that's like the main attraction, right? So like you having that extra pump for just the excitement for that nonfiction is a differentiator, man. Like that's a positioning that like I think is powerful. So
it's this balance. I think I'm good at it. I'll obsessively learn about things in ways that other people are just like, how you're too deep. Like you can't look at the footnote of the footnote of the footnote until you're looking at a source from 1850, and suddenly the footnote is to something in German, so you can't read it. That's or as academics would say, not nearly deep enough. You need to learn German. What are you doing? You're barely researching it at all. I have a friend. He has a PhD. One of the people who I went to India with. There was only three, and I'll tell him my levels of research. He's like, "Oh yeah, so you're just starting your research." I'm like, "No." He's like learning 3 or 4 languages, traveling to libraries across the world, lying his way into them. It's just like, all right, I'm not doing that. I'm only so good at research.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, there's different levels of everything, right? That makes sense. A friend of mine's deep into like religious studies, and like she started learning Arabic so she could read the Quran in Arabic, and like successfully did all that. Got deep enough, just like, but she knows like 11 languages now, which is insane.
Wow.
Same thing. We've been friends since middle school, kind of. So same kind of vibe there. But yeah.
And how many languages do you know?
I got one and like probably like a 4-year-old's version of Spanish. So
wow, that's incredible. Better than me. I
could, and then I am Greek, so I can say about 15 derogatory words in Greek, and hello and goodbye, and then I could say horrible things to you in between. So
I mean, your grandparents must be so proud.
Yeah, they probably would like for me to have learned more about Greek, but hey, look, they came to the United States, and here we are. This is what America looks like, unfortunately. For better or for worse, we're pretty much not very culturally. I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is, but like there's a gross number of Americans never leave the United States and like barely and like speak English and no other languages, right? So, and nowhere else in the world is it that closed.
Listen, I mean, so many other places in the world. You go 2 hours that way, you're in France. You go 2 hours that way, you're in Germany. It's very different. Like you go 2 hours. I go 2 hours that way, I'm in California. I go 2 hours the other way, I'm in California.
You're still California, yeah.
It's a very big state.
It's 75% of the West Coast. Like it's crazy.
It's insane. I like it here, but yeah.
Cool, man. So look, I would like to get a little more onto the subject here. So like you talked about this difficult professional transition, right? And I'd love to peel that back a little more. So when did you know that you weren't happy at this director level position, or that it wasn't fulfilling you the way that you thought your career should be at that point? I guess is probably a better way of wording that. So
yeah, it was getting to the point where, so this would have been in the past 2020 or 2021, something like that. It was getting to the point where if I edited a piece myself, it was a very bad use of time. It was like if I did, like I would go in and I would give script notes, and that was certainly creative. Like script notes is something I'm good at, which I'm proud of. But like doing anything deeper than that, other than like going into frame and doing some notes within that, like change this, do this. It was just becoming not a good use of my time. And I'm like, I went to art school. I enjoy art. And I mean, like you said, if I wanted to be running a $30 million advertising firm, I'd be laughed out. I certainly don't have that career track, but like, even in theory, like it is very much an art. So many things with business, and there's probably a version of it that I could enjoy. But it wasn't what I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
And it took a huge leap. I mean, to say, hey, I need to leave this, and I have enough runway built up. And my wife works in tech, which definitely helped build a little bit of a buffer right there. Yeah. Thank you for providing health insurance and being a +1 on that. And it took, I want to say 6 months, but it'd probably be more truthfully a year of getting like light freelance gigs, like not enough to get by, and then just going hard on making my own stuff. Took a couple of school of motion courses, which actually were great for jumping me back into the thick of it and being like, oh, right, I'm not at the top of my game. I am a beginner. And like entering that place of feeling like a beginner again was wonderful. Cause I don't know, you get into a rut where you're like, oh my God, I'm so good at what I do. And like, whenever I'm getting into that, I'm like, no, you're not, man. There are infinite people in the world. How do you become a beginner again? But it was a huge risk that could have been very dumb. I knew I could fall back on kind of some of my other skills. Like if I needed to, just do rote editing or what have you, I could fall back, I could get that. But I wanted to jump industries in a way. And I don't know, I sent the applications out there, and I was fortunate enough a year later for someone to have seen my entirely new portfolio. I'd made 3 or 4 pieces that were, I don't know, 6-8 minutes a piece. And they're like, oh yeah, this guy's good. I'm like, oh, thank God. That was not a given. Like
No.
not a given at all. So that was a tough choice. That was a difficult period. Because it was also during the pandemic. I was making not nearly enough money. I'm now at a place where I think I'm making more money than I was as a producer, which is neat. But that's just recent. That's recent. But more importantly, I'm able to spend my time on things that I've been passionate about, and it's not common, except in some circles where it's all they do. I definitely wrestle with it. I'm like, okay, what's next? Am I heading the right way? But things are going well right now, which is good.
I'm confident from the way you broke all that down and the level of introspection that you did and then that leap that you took, that you'll definitely figure it out. You just keep looking at it, that's all right.
I mean, I don't know how you approach growth, but I think about it very intentionally, where it's just that, how can I work on this one specific skill that I can learn today? And if I reinforce it over the next 3 days, I then have it down. I have a list of like, here's the 60 things I want to learn next. And they make me 0.5% better each. And by the end, 0.7% better, or maybe even better than that. Or please.
That's something I tell I speak to kids all the time, and I'm on the board for the Graphic Artists Guild. So I'm always trying to inspire other creatives, and I spend a lot of time doing, talks and that kind of stuff. And that's like the number one thing that I tell everybody's like, if you're going to be a creative in this world with all these tools and technology and it's great. Like I started this company in 2006. You can imagine we don't look or use hardly any of the same tools in 2025 that we did in 2006. I mean, I still use Photoshop a lot, but even Photoshop is entirely different than it was back then, right? So you just have to love learning. You have to stay in a space where you want to keep learning and growing, and like you said, that mentality of like, oh, I know everything, or like if you're gonna learn, you can't start there. You got to always go back to like, hey, I want to learn from scratch. I taught myself everything I could ever want to know about NFTs and Web3 because I thought the technology was amazing. I got deep into it and I love it. Now I speak on it. It's opened a lot of opportunities for us. Like, I got us a 6-figure deal recently, which was really cool. And those kind of things are just like, if I didn't dump all my time, energy, and effort into that as a passion to understand that stuff, I wouldn't have been able to transition over and grab some extra lines of work out of these industries, right? I've been doing that with AI now too, which is like really fascinating. I think there's a very ethical way to create your own AI models and use it in an ethical way that isn't you just stealing people's shit and going, look, I'm an artist now. I can jam on the keyboard. Like,
I mean, there's even subtle ways that it gets used. I mean, the ability for Premiere, for instance, with video editing, to auto-transcribe everything. Amazing. And then to edit based off of that, to say, search for pauses and delete all pauses. Like, that's new as of the last 2 years, I want to say. And I can't imagine editing without that feature now with what I do. It's completely game changing. If I were to go, like, you can find all of the ums. It's like, great. I say a million ums. I'm rarely editing my own stuff, but great. Just speaking of being a total beginner, I've been editing for a while, and normally I'll edit something and it'll be like someone narrating, and maybe it'll be 5 to 15 videos of recording someone narrating and then bringing in B-roll, all of that. I had an edit, I just finished it earlier today, where it was a 21-minute piece, and it was kind of shot like a reality TV episode, and I was given 500 pieces of footage that were recorded. And it was like, how do I even approach this? And I was like, I thought I knew how to edit, but then I was given this thing that had an order of magnitude more footage than I was used to. And I just had to completely up my process. And, you look at documentarians and they're dealing with, 5,000 things of footage. And that's, not something that I've tackled before. And then I got to the end, it was like, and now you need to color correct all of them to match. And I'm like, oh, that's a skill I need to learn. And it's just, it still happens. And that's good. Like, I'm like, cool. If I were given this again, it would take me much less time. And it would kind of be exciting to be like, this is a thing I do now. You need a reality TV show edited? Okay. I want to work with a few people on it because this is so much more work, but it's new, it's different. And that happens all the time. I like that. Yeah.
So you asked me this earlier. I wanted to ask you it back. What's your like big dream project? Like if you could get any project right tomorrow, like that would just send you over the edge with excitement, what would that be?
All right, I'll give you two answers. The one that I got the grant for, which I'm deep into working on, I already released the first piece of it, and I have 3 follow-up pieces. It's following this. So when I was working in the world of like Jewish stuff, I did this whole series of history videos. I was like, can I make one video for every 100 years of Jewish history from, say, the destruction of the Second Temple to right before the Holocaust? Because it was a period that I really didn't know much about. And I was like, can I find like one interesting thing? And I made 20 videos. This is many years ago. And of all the stories that I chased down, there was one that I just couldn't shake and got like weirder and weirder and more interesting. And it was that in the 17th century, there was this one guy that in the year 1666, allegedly the majority of the Jewish world believed was the Messiah. And I was like, wait, what? That's insane. Like, what? What? I never heard of that. Like, I've done a lot of it too. Yeah. So I chased that down. I made a video about it, and it ended up being this series, whereas like the first video was the story of this guy and like, why did people believe in him? What was him? And then like deep into like this Kabbalah and spiritual realms, which are far beyond me. I'm the first person to admit, but it gets deep. And then there was like a follow-up of a secret society that continued to believe in him for 250 years. There was a copycat Messiah 100 years later that was just like all sorts of crazy, just like like a sex cult sort of thing. And then it exploded into this whole of like, okay, what were the other incidents of different messiahs throughout Judaism, like small and big, that like they themselves believed they were, but like, Jewish writ large didn't. And so that's kind of the 4-part series that I'm working on right now. And that's been really fun, really exciting, really hard. I've gotten to speak to just some of the, like, people who have written books on all of this stuff. That's been fascinating. So that's what, awesome. Yeah, so that's been really cool. I keep getting freelance, so it keeps getting put on the back burner. And that is the most braggy complaint I could possibly give. And I accept that. And then the other project that I've been working on for a while, like I was saying, that video about the origin of world maps, it's kind of a multi-part series where it's just kind of, it goes from different stages of maps evolving. And that's interesting to me. Like, how did satellites change that? How did surveying change that? That sounds very boring when I sold it right there, but it is very interesting. And there's amazing visuals to go along with it.
No, it's cool. It's something I think about every time someone talks about a map of land. Is this how much, like, my wife studied the ecology and wetlands and all that sort of stuff in college. Just these coastlines are very variable, right? Like, they don't stay the same. Like, every storm changes them, and this and now, we build up bulkheads and, boardwalks and all that sort of shit. But like, she showed me this map one time of the Mississippi River and all the places that had flowed over the past like 400 years. And it's just like, it's like acres and acres of land, and it's just like, it's just, it looks like 70 different rivers. And it's like, meanwhile, people want waterfront property and they don't want their house to fall in the river. And it's like, that's not how these things work. Like,
yeah, I know. Skip ahead 10 years, the level of climate migration that we're going to see start happening. It's crazy. And I mean, that's tied right into it. We're seeing it happen now as insurance rates go up.
Yeah, they stop covering people for things because the insurance companies, they're just running metrics and numbers and data. They're crunching all that. They're like, oh, look, we're not gonna cover this area for wildfires because they're well overdue for a wildfire. Then wildfires break out. Nobody has insurance. And it's because they're looking at the information. right? Like they stopped giving flood insurance to a lot of areas. Like you can't get like a like certain kind of like flood insurance in Outer Banks because it's like, yeah, like there's gonna be a cat something come through and wipe all these houses out. We're not going out of business because you guys built houses here, right? It's crazy. So
it's wild. It is wild. Yeah, one thing here, I'll make this about me a little bit more. One thing that's also really interesting is when I'm doing sometimes just 1 to 3 day gigs, I do a lot of map animation, and I'll get to dip into a story like that. Or I did one about the wildfires in Los Angeles, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago. And it's just like, I'm working with the reporters who are, working for Wall Street Journal or whatever it is. And it's just cool to be like, oh, cool. I get to spend 3 days really understanding this story and digging into it and following the news for a reason rather than just hobbyist following the news, which I do anyway. But it's nice to be like, oh, no, this is serving a purpose, I suppose. So
that sounds really cool.
It's nice at times. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely being able to like just junk out into the weeds of something is fun, right? Like we often have so much like, Twitter style, like short, like here's a little highlight of like material, and then you just keep it moving. Like it's fun to really get engrossed in something and understand all the nuances and the deep history behind each part of the stories and all that. So
what I love is when you like expand on one kernel of information and it expands so much, it starts connecting to like your tree trunk of what you know in the world. So it's not just some random fact from the 1880s. It's the evolution of how this epoch of spirituality was connected to this one through this writer. And then suddenly it's connected to some greater thing. Like I love that because then I can hold on to it. And that's powerful for me. Otherwise, they're just factlets that are good at Jeopardy.
Yeah. It's like the wagon wheel width. The width of a wagon was based around the width of a horse's ass, which scaled all the way up to railroad tracks and kept going on to like pieces of the space shuttle. So like now we have like space shuttle pieces based on like the widths of horses' asses, which I saw something on that not too long ago. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
It seemed like it was relative to what you were saying.
Yeah, no, completely. Yeah, go on.
Cool. Well, hey, dude, we're at the top of the hour already. Here we are. So we are coming up on time, but before we wrap, I do have one last question for you. Is there anyone or anything in your career that you would like to shout out to the audience? Maybe a mentor, valuable resource, favorite client, anything of that nature?
Sure. So I mean, I mentioned a few of them over this conversation. I really enjoyed taking a couple of classes at School of Motion. I'll give them a plug. I thought, Joey Corman or whatever his name is, he does a fantastic job over there, and that's great. Clients, yeah, I don't know. I like the people I work with. You can chase down a few of the videos I've worked on in the show notes, probably. I don't know. I'll give you a link to my website. Yeah, I don't know. I called out my one video, The Origin of World Maps, and if you want to chase down me, great. Or just go on to the next podcast. Fellow listener, you do you.
Awesome. I want to give a big shout out to Ben Levy too. He's the one who connected us. Great guy, previous show guest.
A professional speaker, that guy. Not something I am. Professional speaker.
Dude, he is great. I think we just launched his episode the other day, actually. So, yeah, he was episode 74. If you're interested in that. You'll be episode 80, which is amazing. I don't know how we got here. No, I didn't get canceled yet, so that's good.
You know, it's weird listening to friends on podcasts because it feels like this one-way conversation where you want to like interject, and then you know more about them than they know of you, and it's always weird. I'll listen to the episode. I'm looking forward to it because I enjoy the guy, but it's always weird.
Yeah, no, I totally can understand that. So, all right, so we've been talking to Jeremy Shuback, who is a video freelancer who's worked with top journalists. You can check out his website at jeremyshuback.com. That's Jeremy, JeremyShuback.com. But if listeners want to follow up with you directly, where should they go?
Yeah, if you want to follow, I mean, you can email me. I'm around. My email is jeremy@shuback.me. So sure, I could put that out into the world. I don't think I'm going to get spam from a podcast.
No, I don't think so. If you do, it'll be good. It'll be good people.
Yeah, for sure.
Only amazing people listen to my podcast.
Oh, really? Really? That's incredible.
So if you're listening to this podcast, then you're amazing. So, all right. Well, thanks so much, Jeremy. I really appreciate you being on the show, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.